Welcome to the people who will be listening to the recording or watching it. And again, thank you and welcome to everyone who is here live for this introduction to Rage Club. I am Nicole Hartley Bradford, and I am a possibility manager and trainer in training on the trainer path. And Rage Club comes out of possibility management. The space that we're sharing here tonight is not an ordinary space, because the context of this space is different from the context of modern culture. Modern culture is what we all grew up in. And if you're here, my suspicion is that you would like something else. And Rage Club is one of the first one of the foundational things that we can do. Rage work is some of the work that is foundational to all of next culture work. Because when we don't have access to our four feelings, anger, sadness, fear, and joy, we rely on others to create our lives. And in possibility management and conscious feelings work, we begin with rage, because when we have our access to rage and we're feeling it at low levels of intensity, we don't have to make boundaries because we have boundaries. We don't have to make them up and protect something that is out here. We're present, centered, grounded, and sensitive to what comes our way. Rage Club is a laboratory space. It's an experimental space. And it's a space of radical responsibility. A question that I hear a lot around rage work and Rage Club has to do with the old map of anger. Modern culture has this map of anger that we unconsciously have been adhering to, that says that anger and all of the four feelings are bad and wrong, or at least not okay. And in the new map of four feelings, we use our feelings consciously to handle things and to heal things. The feelings are essential to the healing and transformation from being a human in the ordinary context of modern culture to growing up into and jacking into what we call in possibility management our archetypal bodies. Our archetypal bodies are all about the purpose of our life. And without anger, we have so much less with which to create our lives. So the Rage Club space can seem dangerous, because we still have a lot of memetics, mental, intellectual constructs that are from the old map of feelings that say feelings aren't okay. In the new map of feelings, what is okay or not okay is behavior. Feelings are feelings, and behavior is behavior. And in Rage Club, we use our feelings to help us have more possibilities for behavior and to empower responsible behavior. And it takes practice. However old you are, I'm 50. That's how long I've been practicing according to modern culture's old map of feelings. And modern culture is also not sourced in radical responsibility. In modern culture, there are many grown humans who are living and functioning at the level of child responsibility. We know that because we see that many, many messes are being made and no one's cleaning them up. The people who made the messes are leaving the messes. They are not cleaning them up. And that's what a child does, makes messes, and who cleans up? The parents. There is parental level of responsibility happening in modern culture. It is mostly connected to paid work or volunteer work that gives you status and a sense of maybe justice. That's happening where messes are being made and people are taking responsibility, often according to the old map of responsibility, which says responsibilities are a burden, they're pressure. If you fail at taking responsibility, you deserve punishment. And there are very few people who are functioning at a level of radical responsibility, where responsibility is happening. And in order to be able to notice what's happening and feel and respond responsibly to what's happening, we need our anger. The basic rules in Rage Club are no hurting yourself and no hurting anyone else. Also, no hurting the space. So this is one practice that's ongoing in Rage Club spaces, is to notice the effects that we're each having on the space. And as we get practice with this and experiment with this, we start to be able to notice and make distinctions about how our anger through our behavior affects space. And even though when anger is unconsciously applied in irresponsible ways, so that spaces and people and objects are hurt and damaged and wrecked, we can notice that anger can also be used consciously to create benefit in spaces. So has anyone here ever taken courses in anger management? Yeah. In Rage Club, because it is about possibility management rather than anger management, a lot of new things become possible. Rage Club is also, in being about possibility, it's not about psychotherapy or psychology. It's about learning, experimenting, and finding out for ourselves, not from a higher authority or an external authority. what's true for us. Having feelings come alive out of numbness, which is what rage work helps make happen. Having feelings come alive out of numbness is a lot like having the electricity come on in a house where there has not been electricity, where the electricity has been off. A lot of things can start happening all at once. We can't bring one feeling alive without bringing the other feelings alive also. And that is also sometimes when it starts to occur to us as dangerous, because our fear also comes alive. And our fear coming alive is, I have found, and I feel so glad about sharing about this, because my fear coming alive has, contrary to popular or spiritual circles opinion, has proven to be a most beneficial thing for me. In a world that says no fear, again, by the old map of feelings, a world that says fear is bad and wrong and not okay. If you have it, it means you're weak or unreasonable. On the new map of feelings, fear is fear, and fear has information for us about making distinctions, seeing to details, noticing, and then we can use our anger to choose to stop things and start things, to make a stand, to say stop, to say go away, and to take ourselves away, or to go into something with our fear dialed up so that we can really pay attention and take care of ourselves. How's all that sounding so far? Yeah, I see a lot of nodding and thumbs up. Human beings are built with feelings. We have emotional bodies. And we are feeling feelings all the time about everything. And sometimes we are feeling numb also. We're feeling feelings from 1% to 100%. 100% is our full capacity for full intensity feeling.
It's okay, it's all in goes.
And when our numbness bar is high, we only become aware of our feelings when they're at a high level of intensity. And this, I think, is probably what gives anger its dangerous label. How many of you have had this experience where things are kind of getting at you, getting to you all day, but you don't really say anything about it or do anything about it? You kind of let it roll off like water off a duck's back until the thing happens that puts your anger over the numbness bar. And the volcano erupts. And the behaviors and the words that happen cause harm to relationships, to spaces, to reputations, to lives. And same with the other three feelings. When our fear is numb, we don't feel it, we don't change how we're doing things, until something really gets our fear intensity jacked up even more. And suddenly we're maybe out of control or going into behaviors that scare other people, maybe that even scare us. Sadness too, when the losses or the all of the things that cause sadness in us, because we we're always being affected in our world. And because of the stoicism that modern culture kind of conditions into us, don't be sad, don't cry, it's not that big a deal. So we raise our numbness bar for sadness and we swallow it and we hold and we make ourselves impervious to the pain until maybe again something happens and our sadness level goes up over our numbness bar and starts to spill out in ways that are intense. And it's like trying to drink out of a fire hose to process the sadness, to have it. We can also mix our feelings together. And in Rage Club, this is something that we experiment with a lot, is about unmixing our feelings. What we found in the conscious feelings work in possibility management over the decades that possibility management has been happening is that mixed feelings are one of the ways that we kind of create our numbness bar and perpetuate it. And when mixed feelings are happening, often we're either over the top with hysteria, which is a mixture of anger and sadness and fear, or we might be very calm looking and still, like when depression is happening or isolation, when our sadness, anger, maybe fear also mix in ways that become a barrier that we hide behind. And this is another reason that we start with anger, because it takes the creative power of anger to unmix our feelings, to say no, to say, ugh, to get that unmixing happening so that we can break out of depression or isolation or other kinds of patterns that are like holding patterns that are limiting us and preventing possibility from happening. So with these four feelings, anger, sadness, fear, and joy, what tends to happen is that whichever one of the four feelings we're feeling at the highest degree of intensity, that's the feeling we say we have. And if we're really numb around our sadness, we might be feeling high intensity sadness, but we might be saying, I feel happy, because that's the feeling that we can sense. What we found in conscious feelings work, in possibility management, is that when we reconnect with our feelings, they often happen at the same level of maturity as when we shut them down. So it's not surprising if when we're doing exercises in Rage Club, that you kind of like almost appear to yourself to be like a small child having a temper tantrum with no words. That's great. That's how that comes back alive and how you get that part of yourself back. And then what has been amazing for me to see during my own development using rage during the time that I've spent in other shared spaces with people experimenting with rage and other feelings, is this surprisingly fast in some cases, but in every case, obvious kind of maturation into this new level of maturity with anger, sadness, fear, and with joy, and a kind of curing into authenticity about these things too. Because what sometimes happens is that this part of us that develops during our formative years, this part of us that develops to keep us safe, to make sure we survive, it often picks up ideas from the world around us and then kind of creates like masks or pretend behaviors of feelings in order to just survive. So we might have learned to use an almost inauthentic anger to get our own way. We might have learned to use sadness to make ourselves less threatening to other people so that they would soften and not come at us with anger. There's so much in conscious feelings work. I think you might be getting the idea about that. And one of the reasons that I have committed to holding space for Rage Club is because of the transformation that's possible, because of the transformation I've experienced in my own life and I've seen in other people's lives. It has come as a surprise to people I've talked to that in Rage Club, we don't need to do anything to make anyone angry. And this again speaks to this amazing discovery that humans are all walking around with this amazing creative power in us of anger that has a lot of the times been numbed and the rest of the time kind of been relegated or delegated to very specific kind of spaces. And we see it, don't we? We see it in the world, maybe not so much, well, as much during COVID times, but I'm remembering back to things like hockey games where violence erupts because anger, it's like given an arena there. How many people do you know who are kind of mesmerized by the fighting sports? Because it's like, here is where anger is allowed. And we got to get what we can get out of that. There is often fear around losing control when people first start hearing about Rage Club and first start becoming interested. Often a fear then comes up, and the fear when we listen to it is what if I lose control? What if I hurt somebody? And we practice around that. We practice turning anger off and bringing it back down and stopping. And one of the things I'd like to do here today is to demonstrate that, because that's something that you can take away in your day, whether or not you continue with Rage Club or not, that you can take with you as a little trick in your toolkit, a strategy that's a responsible strategy. We call it the no blood position. And again, like so many things in possibility management, this was kind of discovered almost by accident. We started to see the necessity for a kind of a kill switch, an off switch, without creating like a sudden like energetic like stopper cork that would then, you know, increase the intensity by blocking. And I invite you all to stand up. And just stand with your feet about shoulder length apart and your arms loose by your sides. I invite you to close your eyes and just give your body a scan. Just kind of head to toe and maybe back up again. Just noticing it. Noticing any tension. Just saying hello. Next, I invite you to put your attention, concentrate your attention on the grapefruit-sized sphere of space that is cradled in your pelvis. And in women, that is our physical center of gravity. It takes a little bit of anger to have your energetic center, your center of authority, in your physical center. And with your attention, you can bring your authority back into your physical center. This is where we often hear people talk about being centered or being composed, being present. Being grounded is an extension of that. So from that physical center and energetic center that's in that place in your pelvis, see that you have, because you choose, and again, this takes a little bit of anger to choose, to declare that you have a grounding cord. It's about the same diameter as a hefty garden hose that connects your physical and energetic centers to the physical and energetic center of the earth. And just see it in your mind's eye. And next, use again a little bit of anger to declare, to bring into being, to become aware of the bubble that is around your personal space. And now I invite you to open your eyes and just notice the difference about how things are now compared to how they were when you had your eyes open before. And now, as you're following these next instructions, the invitation is to notice what else changes. And what I'm going to ask you to do is simply to cross your arms behind you and then hold on to your forearms and push your forearms against the small of your back. This is what I've come to call the no blood position. Something about standing like this grounds and centers our anger, so that when we've started to lose control and maybe started to do things with our hands that we don't want to do, we can snap into this position and keep talking, maybe, and create new possibilities without stuffing our anger, without judging it, and without hurting anybody, including ourselves. Thank you. In anger work and in conscious feelings work, there are two phases that we've been able to distinguish. The first phase is what I've been talking about starting to feel the feelings, to get them back, to get our numbness bar down, to be able to name them, and to be able to hear what they're saying, the information they're bringing us. The second phase is about using the feelings, using them, owning them, harnessing them, directing their power on purpose, and applying them on purpose to, the phrase I like is to comport ourselves. Because sometimes it's about doing something, but sometimes it's about not doing something. Sometimes it's about saying something, sometimes it's about not saying something. The thing is, you can't use feelings that you can't feel. And a lot of the time we've been told that it's too much feeling that's the problem. And it's possible that it's not enough feeling at low levels of intensity that creates problems. When we can notice those low levels, especially of anger, and we can use 5% anger to simply say, stop. No, wait a minute. I need to think. Give me 2 minutes. So the last 20 minutes here that we're going to have together today, I want to give you some more opportunities to experience some things, because it really, I could talk all day, but it's really getting up and doing the things that makes a difference. So I've talked about how anger can be used for saying no and saying yes. Do you notice how your yes kind of becomes maybe even a lie if you can't say no? Yeah. What does a yes mean without the ability and capacity to say no? So does everybody have a hand towel handy? If you don't, you might be able to find a pillow nearby or an item of clothing that you don't have qualms about stretching a little. And the first thing we're going to do with this towel is kind of fold it up, maybe so it's a certain thickness, and then roll it so that you can hold it in your hands like this. And then just sit and maybe again close your eyes and just have your hands with the towel on your lap. And scan yourself for some anger. Even if it's just the tiniest little bit, maybe it comes with a thought about something that happened or is happening. Maybe it even comes from hearing me talk about anger and realizing how duped we've all been into suppressing it. And just start to wring the towel so that there's pressure in your hands and in your arm bones. And notice what happens. Let the anger, let the twisting turn up your anger dial. And notice how you're bigger than your anger. And now I'm going to count to 5. Count backwards from 5. And when I get to 0, you're going to stop. But for now, keep going. Keep going and notice your anger. Let it grow. Let it grow for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now stop. Thank you. The next thing we're going to do is practice saying no and yes with that anger. So this is what it's going to look like. And this is something that in Rage Club, in the series that I'm going to be starting next week, this is something that we'll practice more with. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate the different maturity levels of anger, remembering them from my own kind of progress through getting my anger back. In the start, when I would use anger to say no, and I'm using about 15% anger or aiming for 15% anger when I do this, it would look like this. No! And as the weeks and months have gone by, no! No! And it surprisingly to me has also changed the way I say yes. 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 So I'd like to invite you all to stand up again if you'd like to join me in an experiment of yes and no saying. What we'll do is we'll say yes, and then no, and then yes again. It'll look like this. 3, 2, 1. Yes, no, yes. And I invite you to use your arms, either fisted or like this, to punctuate your yes, no, yes. All right, everyone ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. Yes, no, yes. Let's do it again. 3, 2, 1. Yes, no, yes. And just notice any differences that happen that second time. Let's do it one more time with our hands. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Yes, no, yes. Thank you. The value of Rage Club is in new behavior. And you might think that learning to say yes and no is a funny thing for grown women to be doing, but who has ever consciously practiced saying yes or no before? Doesn't happen a lot, does it? Yeah, so thank you for joining me and trying that experiment. Now I invite you to sit down again. And just notice your body again as you're sitting. Changing our relationship and our experience of our feelings can even change our body. And on a Thursday night, coming up to 8 p.m., I know that in my life before Rage Club, this might be the time of day where I started to feel pretty tired and wanted to, just kind of maybe kick back in front of a good show on Netflix, or kind of lays out, and just notice the level of aliveness in your body from just doing very simple, short, even experiments. Who's noticing a difference? Yeah, thank you. A part of me just wants to do more and more and more until you all want to go leave on your own and go to bed and do something else. What I'm going to do now is open it up to any questions that people have, either about anything that I said, and then at the very end, I'll just say a few quick things about the upcoming Rage Club. I know some of you are already registered. And if you have any questions about continuing in the series, let me know those questions too. And whoever has a question can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask it. And yeah, do drink some water. This is thirsty work.
My question is, is it recommended to have like your own space? Like, will we be doing more like yelly sort of things? Like, is it recommended to have a space where you won't be disrupting people with noise during this?
Beautiful. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you for asking. Yes, it is recommended to have like a bit of a sound pod space. But if you can't set that up, there are some possibilities about that. One of them is to let everyone in earshot know that you are going to be doing conscious feelings work or high theater, conscious theater, and it's going to be noisy. And it might even sometimes sound like scary, but that you're okay and that you don't need help and everything's okay. Sometimes in rage clubs, people have put a sign on their door of their apartment, even that says conscious theater rehearsal happening. Don't worry about me. Thanks for your concern. And there's also, we'll demonstrate this. So one of the towels that I ask people to bring is so that they can have one to twist and one to serve as a muffle. So the difference is, and I won't be too loud because sometimes it makes the sound cut out actually, but if I'm saying, my name is Nicole, just in a loud voice compared to, it surprised me how muffling that is. And then also doing the sounds into pillows is also a good way to muffle. So there's that. And then the worst case scenario, I've heard so many stories that just delighted me of suddenly there being banging on the door and the person in the rage club says, I got to go get that before they like break my door. And they show up and they're like, hi, what's up? And the police say, we heard there was screaming, a neighbor called it in. And then you say, oh yeah, which one? So I didn't know it would carry. I'm doing conscious rage work. I actually, am learning so much. Oh, you should try it. And there have been times where people who kind of came over out of concern ended up taking Rage Club. So that's the worst that can happen, maybe.
Nicole, is this going to be something where we're going to want a notebook kind of thing for during, or is it going to be more activity than it will be theory, or both?
Bring a notebook.
Okay.
There are going to be things that we will do some writing exercises, and something else that I've discovered about conscious feelings work is that often as my feelings and my thoughts are also alive, I think I get these aha moments or these realizations or these ideas about possibilities, and at the time they're so strong that I think I don't need to write that down. How will I ever forget that? I will never forget that. And then an hour later, I'm like, oh my gosh, I had this amazing idea of something I wanted to do. What was it? So yes, bring a notebook to capture what comes to be captured.
And is it just 1 hour each week?
No, it is 2 hours.
2. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we can really get going and really. So it will be 7 till 9.
And will there be like a weekly agenda or anything like that we'll know ahead of time what we're actually going to be working on each week?
Probably not. And every now and then, maybe.
Okay.
Because I do want to, at the end of, say, one session, like tie us to the next session. I want to make use of the days in between. So sometimes that might be like, prepare for this that we're going to do next week. One of the ideas for a new experiment that I got today that I want to do this series is to have people like find a cardboard box, like one of those kind of big, like a moving box, and we'll use conscious anger to see what we can turn a box into in 5 minutes. Maybe some people will have a big pile of very small box pieces. Maybe some people will have a new condo for their cat. There's so many fun exercises to do and experiments to do using rage. Does anyone have any more questions? Meredith, you unmuted.
So are people meant to continue any exercises or like thought processes after Rage Club is over?
It tends to happen when it comes to this context of radical responsibility. You do what you want. So there's not like an obligation to do things, like it's not like school where there's homework or assignments and you kind of, you lose points if you don't do them or anything like that. What I find is that I tend to have some time after doing conscious feelings work where I'm still very engaged and alive. And it can be a very creative time. Sometimes I also am like, woohoo, bedtime, kick back now. Now's the time to chill. I did the work. And that also reminds me that you are all invited, and the people in my rage clubs are all invited to an experiment that is really an initiation in possibility management that we call the 333 initiation. And this is to do 3 minutes of anger 3 times a week for 3 months. And how I have it set up right now is that I have a Zoom call on Monday mornings at 9:45 a.m. Mountain Time. And then on Thursday afternoons at 2:30 p.m., where I am on Zoom doing 3 minutes of rage and kind of holding space for other people to come and do that too. And then I have a YouTube video where I hold space or kind of coach people through doing 3 minutes of timed anger that I will also give you so that you can watch it and see how it goes and use it if you want to. And the idea is that we do 2 together and then everyone takes radical responsibility for doing their 3rd one. And I also have, there are other possibility management trainers who are holding space at other times for 3 minutes of rage. So I will put the link to the video of me doing it. And I think it ends up being like a 9-minute video because I kind of set it up and then there's the 3 minutes timed. And I do it too on the camera. And then maybe I talk a lot. You can always fast forward to the juicy part. Or you can just put on your own timer and set an alarm to do 3 minutes of rage 3 times a week. And that's something else that you could just go ahead and do and see what happens. And if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch. So it's 8, and I want to respect everyone's time. Thank you so much for being here. I am going to stay on for another 10 to 15 minutes. So if anyone has any more questions, feel free to stay a little bit longer, or you can reach out and connect with me through my website, which is NicoleHartleyBradford.com. If you Google any of those 3 names with Awakening the Village, you'll also get the link easily. And you can sign up for a newsletter where you will be the first to hear of all upcoming Rage Club opportunities and other opportunities that are in formation. Thank you so much for coming, and rage on.